What's going on, everybody? Gunner here. It's an early Saturday morning, but we are not headed out fishing. We're actually headed out to the range. It is probably the last day here. We're coming up on hunting season, some quiet time, and then when it snows, you can't get back here. So this is the last training day of the year, and if you remember last year, I posted kind of a Ruger SP101 357 Magnum EDC journey I had started. And this is kind of like a fun year update. It's been a year. A lot has changed as far as setup and weapons and caliber and carry style and everything. And really the point of this video is not just to do that, but since I have bought pistols and different holsters and things, I've been able to do a lot of dry practice, dry fire practice for about 6 months, maybe a hair longer. And this isn't, this isn't like 5 days a week dry fire, 30 minutes a day for something like that. It's just like your average dude, like 2 or 3 days a week, 10, 15, 20 minutes when you can spare it. Work on your draw, work on your trigger press, your sight alignment, your press, maybe target transitions, very simple things, reloads. And so this will be kind of like a fun 6-month update of what does it look like to actually practice. And of course you could far exceed what I have gotten out of it, if you stick to it. And maybe you'd be a little bit less. It depends on how determined you are and how much you really focus on it. So 6 months. This is what 6 months of dry fire looks like. Range is hot. So what you're seeing in the video currently is a Glock 19 Gen 5 Streamlight TLR 7.8. It's compact, it's a 4-inch barrel, it's a full-sized fighting grip, 15 round capacity, semi-automatic pistol. I have it paired with a Tier 1 concealed Elite appendix rig. I think it's the Axis Elite, I don't recall. But it's a dedicated appendix rig with a spare magazine holder because what is the most common malfunction of a firearm? Magazine related issues, right? You run into an issue, it's usually a magazine, reload the weapon, keep fighting for your life. So that's why you carry a spare mag, not for extra ammo, but to fix the gun and get it up and running. The other gun, this is the first one I ever bought. This is the reason I don't have any revolvers anymore. I bought this at the end of December. It's an M&P Shield Plus. I have the 13 round extendo in and a 15 rounder, which runs level. And this thing, it's also in a Tier 1 Axis Elite. And it was by sheer luck. This is sheer luck that I bought this. I did not do proper research about any of this. This happened to be the gun in the display case that was in the price range I was looking at. This is like the gold standard of carry guns. It has the same kind of reliability track record as the Glock. It's thinner than the Glock. It's lighter. It's a 3-inch barrel. The comfort, the concealability, and it just fights. It's still big enough that you can get a full-size grip and fight with this handgun. And it is the most concealable, fightable, weird combination that a subcompact can get. And it's the gold standard, and I am happy as hell that was my first ever pistol. And it was just dumb luck. So those are the two I use. I carry them every day 50-50. The only reason I didn't have this at the range to train with it was because I don't want all of my pistols to be dirty at the same time. That's just, I don't need to be shooting all of them in one day. I just pick whatever one or two that I'm going to shoot. But if you know, smaller guns are harder to shoot. If you carry a small gun, you better train with a small gun. Like, get good at shooting what you're going to be shooting to defend yourself with. Don't pick the most shootable weapon and go to the range and have this fun time, you know, always hitting your target because it's a more shootable gun. Like, that's silly. And then come back and carry like a super small subcompact that you suck at. Like, train with what you use. I carry them both equally and am equally fond of both. And then we have a T-Rex Arms Nova belt. This is my go-to now, just because I like the buckle, so I don't have to keep ripping Velcro on and off once I have everything set up. If I need to move about or use the bathroom or do whatever, having a buckle is nice. It's an upgrade from the minimalist belt I shared last time. Love the stiffness, it's fantastic. Supports both these firearms super well, so you don't have to wrench it down super tight, but it supports the gun. It has a little bit of play with it, so you can sit down and move the gun around, get your seatbelt behind it, do whatever you're gonna do, live your life, and have access to a firearm and be comfortable. So that is the setup you're currently seeing. Let's go shoot some stuff. Follow through, follow through. There it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Smoked it. How many times I'll do it? 5 times? 5 times. So I keep telling myself to tap rack. And I'm a big fan of James Yeager of Tactical Response, and I'm going to share some resources of his at the end. But he teaches the tap rack for everything, because tap rack solves all of the problems except a double feed. And something James teaches is your OODA loop, which is your observe, orient, decide, and act. And it has to do with reaction time, because you have to observe something and then understand what it is you just observed. You then have to make a decision based on that information, and then you have to initiate your action. And the problem is I leave myself open to, I could tap rack, or I could hit my stupid lever. And of course, it doesn't matter which one you do when the gun's empty. They both work. They both work just as reliably as ever. And the industry likes to bicker about silly stuff like this. The problem is if you leave the option open to you. Pick one. Every time the gun runs dry, I'm going to use the lever. Every time the gun runs dry, I'm going to tap rack for everything. Just pick one and only do one, and you'll never have what that was, which was a whiff and then a hesitation. It's like, I don't care what you do, but pick one so you don't sit there and think about it. Don't think about it, react. Make the decision ahead of time. You know, obviously when you have malfunctions, it's a tap rack drill, but it's pretty distinctive when a gun goes dry. And if you're going to use your lever, but always use your lever. If you're going to tap rack, then tap rack and always tap rack. Void the OODA, increase your reaction time. Fire 5 rounds, 3 times. Follow through, you idiot. Leave it out there. Follow through. It's not a drill. Follow through. Slow down a little. There's follow through. Crushed it. Hard front sight focus. Hard front sight focus. So now I'm yelling at myself about what I'm saying follow through, and I mean it in two senses of the word. I'm about to explain the next one in a second here, and I do it on the range, and I think it has to do with your sight picture. But here you can see I'm really treating the drill like a drill, and what I mean is I'm driving out, I'm doing the drill, and then I suck it back in as soon as my round count or whatever I'm thinking about is completed. And instead, what I'd like to see myself do, drive the gun out, do the drill, finger on top of the slide, and assess, was it effective? Leave that as a part of that drill. Leave that as a part of every drill. Stop doing this every time you hit a round count. I get so mad at myself when I do it, but I'm counting rounds in my head, and it's like as soon as I hit the number, the gun comes in, and that's not a good habit. And again, something Jaeger teaches, and I love the acronym, but he teaches an acronym called FAST, which is fight, assess, scan, top off. And I think James would tell you to do it at the end of every drill. I did that for a season, and it just was too much, and I was dropping rounds everywhere. I think it should be its own drill. It should be what you tag on. At the end, maybe you set up a real world scenario or some real target transitions, or a build drill, transition, build drill, scan, top off. Like, it should be its own drill. But of course, it would look like you fight, you assess, you scan 360 degrees, intentionally looking around things, and then you top off. You reload the gun, tap rack, and move on with your life. But it should be very intentional. And the problem I have is these drills are round count drills, and I'm not getting the assessment of leaving the gun out there. Give yourself a moment of pause so that you're not just, I think it's a bad habit. It's a bad habit. So now let's go on to different follow through with your eyes. Strong hand. Isolation, strong hand. Both for 10. So something Jaeger talks about is follow through. Now, I keep yelling at myself to follow through because I do the drill and then I suck the gun in instead of doing the drill and assessing, did what I do, was it effective, right? But follow through also has to do with your sight picture. And I keep doing something because we're shooting so close and I'm trying to hit specific things. I'll take a shot and then I'll look to see how I did. And then I'll take a shot and then I'll look to see how I did. And you shouldn't be doing that. You should take the shot, and before the shot goes off, you're looking at the front sight. As it goes off, you're looking at the front sight. As the gun's recoiling, you're looking at the front sight. As it resettles, you're looking at the front sight. You only care about the front sight. The front sight tells you where the bullet goes. You don't need to check where the bullet goes. Follow through. So I just talked a good bit about focusing on the front sight. And I don't, man, if you Google this crap, if you YouTube this, it's like the hot topic in the firearm industry about what the hell you're supposed to do with your eyes when you're looking at iron sights. Because every trainer and everybody wants you to shoot with both eyes open. Now, I can shoot with both eyes open exceedingly well and very quickly between 5 and 20 yards. But I do it by focusing on the threat. My focus is on the threat, and my sights are all blurry, whirly, just in my peripheral vision. But I can line them up just fine. And I can do it fast and accurately, but I can't guarantee my shots. And all of the resources that I have seen, especially like Chris Sinog's How to Shoot Like a Navy SEAL, I've seen John Lovell teach it, they want you to focus on the front sight with both eyes open. And I don't know if I'm like in the 1% of the population whose eye dominant switches. I've done all the tests. I've done all the triangle things. I have tried switching eye dominance. I can present under my left eye just fine. I can present under my right eye just fine. I don't know what to tell you. I have to close an eye if I'm going to focus on the front sight. And I practice both ways. I practice closing one eye, driving out front sight, hard focus right here with all of my effort. Everything I'm doing is right there. And at the same time, I do drills where I punch out with both eyes open and I just line it up in my peripheral. I don't know what to tell you. If you want to shoot with both eyes open, just put a red dot on it. That's the truth of it. And Jaeger, this meant the world to me, but Jaeger's got a DVD called Missology. Ology being like the study of, right? Like biology, ichthyology, mammalogy, ornithology. And so missology, the reasons why we miss. And it's kind of a dedicated handgun video. And Jaeger has like the most insane credentials. And he's just like, well, yeah, I just close one eye so I can see the front sight. And I was just like, hallelujah, thank you, thank you. A professional just admitted that they close an eye so they can frickin' focus on the front sight and get on with their life. Like, do whatever you gotta do to make the shot. And people act like if you close one eye, that you're then gonna scan and assess with one eye closed. Like, I don't get it. Like, if you close one eye to make the shot, like you open both eyes when you're scanning. Like, I understand that you're closing off half the battlefield to engage one target, but if you engage that target effectively and then you open both your eyes again, like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal to me. And so do what you gotta do to make a shot. If you're gonna keep both eyes open, practice lining it up in your peripheral for close range work, like 5, 10, 15 yards. You can do that really well, and you just target, threat, focus, or get a red dot. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good grief, that's awesome. The trigger's
butter.
That is, look at those shots.
Mm-hmm.
What? That's crazy. So I'm watching my own reaction to that so that I know what to talk about in this. But that's the first time I've ever shot a 1911. It's the first time I've ever drawn a 1911. It's the first time I've ever tried to turn off a thumb safety, because my Glock 1920 and my M&P Shield Plus, none of those have thumb safety, so I've never had to do that before. So there's kind of a lot in my head going on, which is why it wasn't super smooth. But man, was that trigger was insane. I don't know if you've ever shot a 1911, but the triggers are insane. So everything I have is stock. They obviously make them that way for a reason, because you're gonna be chocked full of adrenaline if you ever have to defend yourself, and they don't want you thrown off negligent discharges, because you're gonna lose blood to your extremities real quick, and you're not gonna feel that take up and that slack. You're not gonna feel it. It's not gonna be there, because your body's gonna be on this insane chemical high. So I'm, it's like I'm envious of the 1911, because why do we miss? We miss because our trigger press sucks and we distort the gun in some way, shape, or form, and we anticipate a small explosion going off between our hands, right? So it's like, as envious as I am, and I will probably buy one now because that was awesome. I don't try to make all my guns like race guns or competition guns. I don't necessarily want them to be like that. I want to learn how to shoot a stock trigger exceptionally well without distorting the sights. And you can just dry practice that press. You can just do that over and over. Reset, press, reset, and understand what that feels like intuitively, and watch your front sight as you do it. And make sure, obviously, you have to go to the range and live fire and confirm that what you're doing is working for you. But you can do a lot with stock. But stock triggers are typically why people miss, because they don't have a good trigger pull. And oh my goodness, man, compared to the revolver, this is 10 times easier to shoot. If you would have handed me a 1911, man, whew, I would have been off to the races. Like, that's night and day. That's a 10-time, 100-time different factor of a long, 10-pound double action trigger versus a 2-pound 1911. That's insanity. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. Just stuff. Adrenaline, overdose, no blood in your fingers. You're not going to feel the slack in that wall. It's not going to feel as heavy as it does when you're training. You can practice that press. The press is why you'd likely miss, especially if you go out to like 15 or 20 yards and you can't hit, steel, it's all in the trigger press for the most part and not focusing on your front sight. And yeah, 1911s are sick. They really are sick. So a few things have changed. Switched up firearms. I'll go over that in a second. But you can see I also put on a coat because it's winter and I live in a place that's cold 6 months out of the year. And so you should practice not just your concealed carry stuff and your t-shirt like it's all summer long. If you live up north, you need to figure out what jackets work with your everyday carry setup. I'm currently carrying outside the waistband 4 o'clock with a T-Rex Arms iron sight and a Glock 20. So Glock 20 Gen 4, chambered in 10 millimeter, which is beefy, but you can see it's wholly controllable. And I had a 10 millimeter revolver, and compared to that Glock 20 is a dream to shoot, absolute dream. It just tames 10 millimeter, it eats right through it. If you have proper grip mechanics, if you're high up on the beaver tail, you squeeze front to back as hard as you can. Your support hand is as hard as you can, as high up as you can. Thumbs forward, locked wrist, man. You can absolutely control that. I can't believe the FBI went from 10 to 40, created 40 essentially because 10 wasn't manageable as far as recoil. Essentially, you just admitted not being able to train your agents how to use a firearm because it's completely manageable, 100% manageable. But yeah, coat. Not only coat, but gloves. And they're fingerless gloves. I use them for fly fishing all the time, and that's what I wear for probably 50 to 75% of winter, and winter driving and errands and being out and about are just my fingerless gloves. So I'm using my coat that I would normally wear. You get inside the grocery store or whatever, you unbutton it. In the winter, my coats conceal all my crap, so I carry at 4 o'clock often. So I would naturally just defeat garment, draw from 4 o'clock, present out with gloves on. And these are all things you don't have to do this at the range, but you can do it at your house. But a lot of coats aren't elastic. Sweatshirts are pretty forgiving. But if you have something that's not an elastic material and you go to defeat your garment, man, it'll stop right there. You'll be trying to get that thing up so that you can get your gun out. And it's no joke. Like, you need to practice that thing in all of your attire and make sure that you can defeat your garment and get that gun out. And you're gonna see we're gonna switch coats. I'm gonna put on a different coat that I wear all the time, and I'm gonna mess with the elasticity around the cuffing of the coat to make sure I can clear a 4 o'clock hold. And it might get hung up a second, but make sure this stuff works. And when I carry it open carry, which I do in the summer, like when I'm hiking and I'm like sweating, I'm outside, I'm working, whatever, I'm not worried about concealment. I also, outside the waistband, my magazine, right? So use your real world setups, train with your real world setup. I have a war belt, but I am not, I'm a civilian. I conceal carry every day. This needs to be my bread and butter. This is, what I get to play with at the end of the day once in a while and just familiarize myself with. But my concealed carry gear, all of this has to be the priority. Handguns have to be the priority over my rifles and my shotguns and everything because this is what I have on me 7 days a week. The rest of this, yes, I have, things I'd like to do and proficiency levels I'd like to achieve, but right now, be a student of the handgun and perfect that because that's what you're going to have on you. Crushed it. Yo. Not a bad group. Not a bad group, I guess. Left. Could do better. So to end, I'd like to go over with a handful of resources, and there's 3 or 4 that I think are just invaluable. And the first I'll go over with is James Yeager. He's got a YouTube channel. He's got Fighting Pistol on YouTube for free. It's a fantastic, like, hour-and-a-half long YouTube video that'll get you squared away on just about everything you need to know to conceal carry and defend your life. Like that, the class is phenomenal. This book is on their website to supplement the class. This reading material alone is I can't speak highly enough, is it? I'm quite sad that James is no longer with us. He is somebody I would have loved to have met in person and take a class with. But he's got a bunch of DVDs also. I have his fighting rifle, his advanced fighting pistol. I have his Missology DVD, which is probably the best DVD. Like if you got that fighting pistol workbook in Missology, man, you would be set. You would be absolutely set. I gave Missology to a friend, which is why it's not here. How to Shoot Like a Navy SEAL by Chris Sinog covers a lot of the fundamentals that both James teaches and John Lovell from Warrior Poet Society. And this is just a short read. Like I read this in like 2 days, 3 days, and it reaffirms the fundamentals. And shooting is just mastery of the fundamentals. Just like, and you could say that about anything. Fly tying is the mastery of the fundamentals. Fly casting is mastery of fundamentals. Weight training, like kettlebells and heavy clubs and lifting odd objects, or Olympic weight training, is mastery of the fundamentals. It's the fundamentals and the mastery thereof that allow you to excel in all of the complex situation stuff. And this book is just fundamentals to the core. And he'll really challenge you to master those, and I think it's phenomenal. This dude, Paul Markle, he was a James Yeager, I think he was an instructor with him or just his friend, but it really mirrors a lot of what James teaches, and so you kind of have like a book resource. If you like to read and you watch a lot of James Yeager's videos, that will resonate. It'll just hit home. And a lot of that stuff can be found in James's book, The 4 Pillars of Fighting. And one thing that James hits home on in so many videos is mindset, your fighter mindset. Not just going over the tactics and the gear, which everybody likes to talk gear, and obviously skill development, which is kind of this video, right? How much skill have I been able to develop with 6 months of dry training, right? But for mindset, he toted Jeff Cooper, this is probably like the greatest book you could read on how to prepare yourself mentally to be in a fight and win that fight. And I think if you're a father and a husband, you need to get your hands on this. And it's not currently in press anymore, I don't think. I had quite a hard time finding it, but make it happen. That's a phenomenal book. And then lastly is John Lovell from Warrior Poet Society. I have followed John for a long time, but they launched their network maybe like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and they put all of their training classes on there for free. So you have Pistol 1, Pistol 2, Rifle 1 and 2, you have all these awesome stuff, and they are really in-depth and really, hands-on, visual. It complements all of this reading material, and it's absolutely fantastic. I'll give you a bonus guy, which would be Lucas Bodkin from T-Rex Arms. And what's cool about Lucas, I love their company. Their products are fantastic. Their ready rig, their battle belts, their holsters, their education, and it's all for free. It's phenomenal. All the targets we were shooting are all from T-Rex's Arms website. There'll be a link down below to print these off. And if you ever kind of go to the range and get like brain dead of like, what should I practice because you forgot, like these sheets, they tell you what the heck to do on them, and this will keep you busy for like 15 minutes and 90 rounds just right here on this one piece of paper. And especially if you have an indoor range and things like that where you necessarily can't draw or you can't do target transitions, you can't move around, but you're just kind of like in a shooting bay. Stuff like that is so engaging, helpful in what to practice. and the company is just phenomenal. I love everything about the company. Interesting side note, I don't think at all that Lucas and James Yeager would see eye to eye on anything, and that's really interesting because it's a different perspective. Lucas is maybe a little bit more competition shooting mindset in his maybe movement and speed and time and the way he pushes himself. I'm not trying to put him in that box necessarily, but you know, James is like pure martial handling only and not making mistakes. Who gives a rip about time? Like it's just about, it's very interesting in different perspectives, but all those guys combined gives you a pretty solid foundation to go about learning this yourself on your own and really being able to cover quite a bit of distance in a short period of time and achieve a level of proficiency that I would be comfortable defending myself and my loved ones with. So, hope you found this video helpful, especially if you're on a similar journey or interested in starting one. And I just hope it helps. I hope it helps. It's kind of like a video I wish I would have seen, 2 or 3 years ago when I was like, I wonder, should I start learning that stuff? And this video would have helped me. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you made it to the end. I will see you in the next one, which will probably be a fly tying video. And we'll continue our extended body bucktail deceiver series. See ya.